Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Galen here on the line, and he's the founder and partner over at Insurance Claim HQ. Galen, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, Galen. So we got a lot to talk about here today. So I definitely want to get into the work that you're doing over at Insurance Claim HQ and really how you're helping equip individuals and survivors that are after disasters, really, is what it comes down to. So I'm excited to get into that. But to get us kicked off here, I'd like to start this episode, as we start them all, with what we call our Mission Matters Minute. So, Galen, at Mission Matters, our aim and our goal is to amplify stories for entrepreneurs, for executives, for experts. So that's what we do. Galen, what mission matters to you?
So for us, I think our overall mission is to help communities recover from natural disasters and even man-made disasters.
How'd you get into that business? How'd that all start for you?
Oh, it was an accident. So I definitely never intended to. I was up in school studying music. And was not,
that's an obvious bridge right there. I got to stop you, Dan. From music to, no, go ahead, please continue.
I tried to sneak through. So I was studying music, and nothing wrong with that. It was a fantastic opportunity, and I learned a lot, but I just didn't have a sense of direction. So this was back in 2005. Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. I had no connection to New Orleans other than that I'd been once in high school for like a high school trip. And I just felt like I needed to be there. So I got down there and did a bunch of volunteer work and kind of ended up accidentally. I was just a 21-year-old kid trying to figure out kind of what I wanted with my life. And I ended up kind of accidentally working my way into the community, ended up starting a nonprofit. And at that point, it was just so important to me to kind of see the community get through, you know?
Wow. What was that like being down there at that age? What I find interesting about that is sometimes people do maybe, Peace Corps or other things. They travel to other countries, but you basically went south. And that's amazing to me. How was that like being down there?
Yeah, it was interesting. Not always safe initially. Yeah. There were just a lot of wild things happening. And those are things I say now that I wouldn't have said back then, right? Back then we didn't want to scare people away from the city, but now I can say that it brought out, I saw some of the best in people. I saw people stop everything they were doing and literally hurt themselves to help others. But I also saw some negatives, people that would take advantage of others and people that would lash out because they were so angry and so hurt. But it was a really good opportunity for me to learn new skills. I learned a lot about construction. I learned a lot about community. I learned a lot about inherent systemic systems and how they often work to marginalize one sector of the community. All things that really, being from Texas and then going to music school in Boston, I really hadn't learned any.
You mentioned that you started a nonprofit from that. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, exactly.
And what was that like?
That was great. So what happened is we were down there and we're doing this volunteer work. And at that point, I kind of decided I wanted to go to law school. There were a lot of lawyers, a lot of law students helping out. And then they started coming in by the droves from law schools all over the place for their spring breaks and their winter breaks. So we started a nonprofit kind of around that and ran that for years, where we would bring in law students from all over the country and kind of help pair them with NGOs and other organizations that needed help for whatever their Katrina relief looked like, which lasted for many years, obviously, not just right away. Yeah. And we could kind of put boots on the ground in a really meaningful way and make sure that labor and those resources were going to places where it would matter the most. And so essentially we were matchmakers, I suppose.
Yeah. Was that your first time being in that kind of role of organization? And I guess now we would use maybe the term social entrepreneur. I don't know if we were using that back then, but now it'd be kind of, you know what I mean? Almost with a social good, right? Out there trying to help with a social good and creating something from it. Is that your first time doing something like that, or were you always an organizer of sorts?
Oh gosh, yeah, that was my first time doing anything that involved
give me some learnings. I want some learnings. I know I'm taking you back, but the reason I'm taking you back too is because there's other people that listen to this that maybe they want to put together some things. So it's inspiring to me, and I'm sure it will be for them too. What were some learnings from then?
Everything. But I think the biggest takeaway is, every single time I did something, and I think that's part of entrepreneurship generally, right, is a lot of times you'll do something and it'll just be the first time. It's the scariest part. So that was the first thing, was I had to learn to let fear not factor in. I kind of separated, I had this feeling all the time, because like even when I was a performer, I'd get like stage fright, right? Mm-hmm. So I had this fear. It was like always present whenever I was starting something new. And I had to learn to discern between fear for fear's sake and legitimate concern, because I had actual misgivings as to whether something was going to work, right? And I think most of us don't know how to discern between the two. And I think it's like a lifelong struggle. But that was the first thing right away, because I think what I learned between starting a nonprofit and then later running a business is you cannot lead from fear ever. It absolutely is not effective.
Wow, that's interesting. And you mentioned that you were doing that for some years. At what point did insurance kind of creep its head in as an opportunity and as a way to help people? But how did that get introduced to you?
So initially right away, right? So I'm down there, I'm helping, I'm doing some demolition work, I'm working on this nonprofit, and one of the key themes that keeps coming up is no one is getting paid appropriately by their insurance company. I'm hearing this. I'm not experiencing it firsthand, right? I don't have a home. I don't have insurance. But I'm hearing it, I'm watching it, I'm seeing it. So this organization kind of came out of ours. It was started by a guy named Morgan, and it was called Matchmakers for Justice. And we ended up pairing law students and lawyers pro bono with people that were having issues with their insurance. And as a result of that, I learned so much about the way what we call first-party property insurance works, how insurance companies kind of can avoid paying both lawfully and unlawfully, the kind of tips and tricks that you need to know. And I was just so lucky, because it just started as like, oh, I'll join this program and it'll be fun and I'll get to help someone. And I ended up taking away a skill set that I would be able to use for the rest of my life.
That's interesting. And for looking at that, did you find it interesting? I mean, the paperwork side of it, the different parties, the people involved, because it's pretty, and I'll give you some backstory just so you know a little bit on my end. Galen, I worked in finance for almost 14 years. So I was in that business for a while. And one of I did do insurance at one point. It wasn't exactly what you're doing, but I found it kind of fascinating. All the different parties, all the different stakeholders, like it's quite creative. Like I see the creative side of it. And I've never been a musician, by the way, so I'm not going to claim that piece. That'd be a stretch for me, but I can see overlaps in like creativity. Like nothing is ever the same. Would you agree with that? Like when you're kind of digging in there?
Oh, 100%. And that's the thing, is like I had this really amazing gift that didn't feel like a gift at the time because I was a poor student, right? Which is the money never factored in. I wasn't an established lawyer doing divorce cases, trying to figure out if I could make this area a profitable area in my life, right? In my practice, for my business, for my staff. I was a law student trying to figure out how this entire world was structured, to try to figure out how I could help this lady and what knowledge I could give to the other law students trying to help other people. And so I probably went deeper and further than I ever would have gone if it was purely like profit driven, right? Because there was never going to be any profit for me. So I learned how insurance companies invest their money, what actually happens with all the premium money, where it goes, how reinsurance works. And I just got so deep inside of this world that in a world that frankly I didn't even care about prior to this, right? But it was so important, and it's really allowed me to kind of base at least my business on such a fundamental understanding of insurance that, I mean, most of what we do when we hire new staff is just education over and over and over, because there's so much they need to learn, even if they came from somewhere that did similar work.
Let's bring it present day. So Insurance Claim HQ, what exactly do you do and who are your clients? Let's get to present day. And thank you for sharing that, by the way. It's so interesting to me how people end up where they're at. Lord knows I didn't go to school and say, I'm going to be a podcaster one day. That did not happen, but that's another show, Galen. Let's get into Insurance Claim HQ, please.
Sure thing. So I had been fast forward. I'm a lawyer. I'm working at various law firms, worked for a couple of law firms, mainly defense firms. I wanted to learn kind of how the other side worked, and then went out, did some plaintiff work. But I was at a sizable law firm. I was a partner there. My name was on the door, but we did a lot of things. So I was very unhappy. The only thing that gave me joy, I found, was when I was helping someone with what our core mission is, which is helping people after a disaster get restored back to their pre-storm or pre-disaster condition. Owning a law firm that did traffic work and probate work and family law was not fulfilling to me. Those are all really good things. I just don't enjoy them. And I didn't care to be sitting in meetings talking about whether we needed an additional associate to work on child custody cases, right? So I left, gave up everything I had, walked away from my equity at that firm, and on August 1st of 2020, established Insurance Claim HQ with like our stated mission of helping communities after natural disasters recover, which sounded really cool, but really had no business plan behind it whatsoever. We were going to be based out of Louisiana because that's where I'd been. We figured we'd make a living because I had so far, so I was pretty sure everything would be okay. And then 20 days later, a Category 5 hurricane hit Louisiana.
Wow. What were your thoughts after that?
You know, I was a little worried because this was kind of one of those opportunities where I honestly would have rather that if that storm was going to hit ever, I would have rather it hit 3 years later because I felt like we would have been more ready at the time. We were a really small team. We were 7 people, much different than the over 100 we are now. And so we had to grow very fast. Quality control was hard because of that. Education was hard because of that. So I was definitely scared, but it goes back to that like scared versus concerned. I wasn't concerned. I knew we could teach people the right way. I knew we could handle the work. We could get the right people in the door. I was just scared. So I kept going anyway because I realized that fear wasn't really the way to handle that.
And so what's one of the most gratifying things as you're helping your clients through all this? Because your team's boots on the ground. You're in the middle of these things. Like, what's the most gratifying part for you?
Oh my gosh, the housewarming parties. I don't even get invited to as many anymore. But really, like, I say it tongue in cheek, but it's true. I don't even get invited to many anymore.
Tell me how it works. Let me be a fly on your wall. How does that work?
Yeah. So these folks, their homes are completely destroyed by a fire or a hurricane or a tornado or whatever it is. And often they're displaced, which is really gut-wrenching. So they spend however long it might be. Could be a couple of months, could be a few years out of their house. And the most gratifying part is not when we get them their settlement or their verdict and their verdict pays and we send them the money. That's cool. What's really cool is when they acknowledge to us in some way, shape, or form that their life is back to normal.
Wow.
So for me, that has traditionally been, sometimes it's a card, sometimes it's a phone call, sometimes it's a text message with pictures, but I've been invited to probably more housewarming parties than anyone else alive. And my clients don't realize this because we don't advertise it. I will always send you a housewarming gift, even if I can't come. So I, at one point, felt like I had a corporate account at Bed Bath & Beyond, right? Yeah. And I was just always going in. But it's the most fulfilling part to walk into someone's beautiful home that's completely repaired as if the storm had never happened and congratulate them and give them a new set of pots or pans or cast iron skillets or knives or whatever it is and know that they're going to start their family anew and that they've been given a second chance.
Man, that's awesome. Galen, it's been really fun having you on the show today and getting to know more about how you got into this business. I would even use the word called to this business and how you're helping people. That being said, if people want to learn more about Insurance Claim HQ or follow your company's journey or your journey on social or otherwise, how do they do that?
Absolutely. Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. And second, our website is easy. It's insuranceclaimhq.com. And then we're on social media under all those same handles. So Instagram and Facebook are kind of our 2 biggest ones. And you can also reach out to me directly on either one of those platforms, and I will respond as well.
Perfect. For everybody listening, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so you can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Galen, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.